che mo fa sera?
A podcast about EVE Online, recorded live on Twitch, Saturdays, 1500 Universal Time. I'm your host, Matt Earl from Imperium News and a member of Dice Corporation from Northern Coalition. Today we have it's been a funny pre-show, but we have a great show lined up for you today. It's going to be an hour and a half with CCP Falcon and CCP Affinity. These are two devs that work on the backstory of EVE Online, which everybody would agree from top to bottom is super interesting. We also are happy to have, well, actually, I would like to say hello to you. Good morning for us. How are you guys doing today?
Really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
For having us.
Yeah, pretty good.
All right. That's Affinity, and that is Falcon, who talked second. And we also have a special guest, Mark726, who's created Eve Travel, one of my favorite, websites with Eve. And it's a place that you can actually go look and find landmarks or space marks and go and travel to them. How are you doing, Mark?
I'm doing fine. Thanks for having me on.
Great. We also have Jin Tan, who is a player from Providence. You all know him. He's part of CSM, Council of Stellar Management, but he's also an FC, and he's all over the place. And he's also a little bit into role play, I believe. And he's made what is that? A video?
Yeah, like a little primer on Kokei.
Yes, we'll run it after the show ends. Great 9-minute primer if you want to know about this Kokei event that's happening that we're going to talk about today. All right, and then we also have the panel today. And let's start with Carneros. How you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Staying out of trouble.
Great. We also have Tiberius with us.
Good afternoon. Here I am.
Great. And finally, we have Apothny.
Hey.
Apothny, you're already at Iceland, right? Or in Iceland, or on top of Iceland?
I've been here since Thursday.
Yeah. I don't know what preposition to use, but you're there, and you're already prepared for FanFest, which is coming up this next weekend. Okay.
I'm always happy when I'm in Iceland.
Awesome. All right. Let's get started. The Kayanoke incident, I'm wondering if we can have that explained to us from the old chronicle that existed.
Yeah,
well,
sure. Who wants to take that? Because we got two nerds here.
Yeah. Well, okay, it should be up to me, and let's talk to the source, CCP. Why don't you tell us, Falcon or Affinity, about the Kayanoke incident?
The source of this horrific disease. That would be yours, I guess. So decades ago now, in Eve's backstory, a group of miners, came upon a large void in an asteroid when they were extracting task. And,
well, hold a second. Sorry to interrupt you, Falcon. You might need to get closer to your mic because it's not picking you up very well.
Should I hold the microphone like this?
Perfect.
All right, I can actually just hold it in my hand. That's a bit better. Is that okay? Yeah?
Yeah, I think so. Yep.
Okay, cool. So yeah, it was about 3 or 4 decades ago in his backstory. There was a group of miners by Piracy, who are a Caldari mega corporation, who uncovered a void in a large asteroid when they were extracting task. They cracked it in this void, they opened it up, and unfortunately for them, they all started suddenly dying over the course of some as fast as 15, 20 minutes, some lasting for hours, days, that kind of thing. Basically, the incident doesn't actually have a name, but the location became known as the Kayanoke, named after the project for extracting tasks, and the pathogen, the virus, also took on that name as well. And it's basically been a quarantined area since then. It's been locked down, guard either by the Caldari Navy or by one of the corporate security mega corporations who are they're basically contracted to make sure that no one breaches it. But yeah, it's a source of a very nasty nasty virus, or a plague rather, that the Kaldari state and everyone else rightly so are really, really scared of. So, yeah, it's quite nasty.
Yeah. Jin, you want to add to it because you made this 9-minute summary?
Yeah, basically the key points are that it's a degenerative disease based around basically a protein. So it's not a virus, it's not a bacteria. We have no way of basically detecting it until it's having its impact, which is why it's so terrifying. You can't see it coming. Hazmat suits don't work against it. The only thing that works against it is total separation. The only way to destroy it is like extreme heat, like nuclear bomb level heat, or the cold depths of space. So if you get Kainoke in your place, you are fucked.
Yeah, so it's essentially somebody made a joke, but it's space Ebola, where
It's even worse than Space Ebola because Space Ebola would burn itself out. That's one of the problems with Ebola Zaire as a virus, is that it's so destructive, it just kills everything around it and it can never spread. Whereas Kainoke can incubate for like long periods of time and basically make you into a Kainoke zombie and spread it to other areas of your planet, of your habitat. So there is no way to quarantine it because it can be invisible for long periods of time.
oh, I see. Because viruses, if they're too lethal, they actually wipe out their hosts, and therefore their prospects for spreading stop. So this one doesn't adhere to that, I guess. Well, it's cool because I think what is going on is that this. But do you want to explain further, Jen, about how it's come back, and then we can talk about what CCP's got planned?
Well, we're not really sure how it's come back. That's something that Falcon could probably tell us about, but I'm sure he'll reveal that through actual lore events. But effectively, there's been a couple of breaches of the Kainoke Pit's quarantine in the past. Once by the Sansha, um, once in the original Chronicle by like bandits, we think, and just recently there was the body of a Kalakatoa like basically head of one of their army divisions was found dead on the asteroid, so we think that Kalakatoa has breached the quarantine for some unknown reason. So that puts like you've got basically 3 ways where it could have gotten out, assuming it's not actually a Jovian super bioweapon or something like that.
It's always the Joel. It's always the Joel.
Always a Jove. It's always the Jove or the Drifters or the Sleepers or the
Joves.
Talakan.
Or the
Everyone's like
sisters.
so terrified of them because they're evil. They're all evil.
Maybe is this when the Yan Yung finally make their appearance in the lore?
Yeah. Honestly, the Takmal would be a bigger suspect for this because they're well known for their bioengineering.
All right. So what those are different races from Eve. So they some are ancient races that have disappeared, and their technology still exists. Something along those lines. So what gave you the idea to bring that back, Falcon or Affinity?
Just running back to the desk. I think is it doing story? Well, actually, no. I think it just it seemed like it would be a fun thing to include in FanFest. It seemed like something that everyone would rally behind because it's something that's kind of frightening. We've seen sort of with the Drifters, for instance, that everyone rallied against the Drifters. 99.9% of people seem to rally against Sanchez Nation as the bad guys, that kind of thing. And I think sort of because Kainoki is so frightening and it kills pretty much mercilessly and indiscriminately, that it makes kind of a perfect enemy for this kind of event. It's just something that's scary for everyone, and it affects everyone. So, I mean, we were hoping it would draw everyone together. Realistically, what's going to happen is everyone's just going to start infighting, pulling the crap out of each other and saying, yeah, let's just meet it from orbit as soon as they get to FanFest. So it's going to be interesting to see what you guys come up with eventually when you all get here.
It's also nice to bring something back that is from the past rather than always inventing something new. And then we have all these stories that we don't really bring to an end. So we're trying our best to conjure against that.
So,
Amen.
Tiberius?
So this is quite interesting because I've been to this will be my third FanFest I've gone to, and this is the first time that, as far as I can tell, other than like the cosplay competition and things like that, that a lore event is basically, or a lore-related event is taking center stage, and it's becoming a big part driving the theme behind it. So what was the kind of what can FanFesters going kind of can expect when they get there?
Well, I think it's a combination of things, really. I mean, FanFest every year. When Infinity was working really heavily on the Drifters, it was the Symposium on Emerging Threats. We've done sort of things around Vegas as well, like Mind Clash and Grab Ball tournaments. And this year, we wanted to do the Kainoki Quest to revolve around this event. Basically, what you can expect when you get there is kind of that sort of event. We're going to have, as we said in the demo, we're going to have 4 sets, so 4 environments set up, for one representing each of the empires, then a 5th that is like a big society of conscious thought war room, basically, where all the voting, the discussion of resolutions, the situation reports, where that will all happen, and that'll be like a focal point for everyone involved in the event. But in terms of what players can really expect on the ground from an experience is, if people want to get involved with it, they can take part, they can do the missions, they can earn the vote tokens, and they can throw themselves in. But if you just want to go and take a cool photo on a set at FanFest with a group of your alliance mates, because maybe you're a Mar loyalist and you want to take a photo in a Mar chapel, or you're Kaldari loyalist and you want to take it in front of a Kaldari themed set, then by all means, everyone can dive in, everyone can take part at whatever level they want. And if you don't want to get involved in all the missions and stuff, but you just want to hang out on the sets, chill out, watch what people are doing and get involved that way, then by all means. We've kind of designed this to be our event where you don't have to know a lot about backstory. In fact, we've gone so far as the vast majority of the actual content for the event is being handled by the Company P, our partners with this. And obviously the Company P do a lot of different events, so they don't necessarily have the knowledge of backstory that myself have. So they're coming at it from an angle where if they can understand it, if they can understand what's going on, then anyone who is super light in the backstory will also be able to do so as well. So it's kind of, if you've been a 10-year vet for Play Eve, you might still know nothing about backstory, but you're not interested in it. So we've just kind of, we've approached it with a super light, really easy to get involved kind of vibe to the whole event.
So you mentioned the sets, and you said and from the dev blog, there's a chapel for the Amar, there's a recruitment office for the Kaldari, there's sort of a pleasure hub for the Galente, and a vaccine lab for the Minmatar as well. So what you're basically saying, and I think my friend General Stargazer pointed this out, was that the Galente are going to be partying, the Amar are going to be praying, the Kaldari are going to be recruiting, and the only ones that are going to be doing any work are the Minmatar, which sounds about right.
Well, you see, that's because of the Amarians telling them to do it, obviously.
But it looks good.
So even if you decide to say affiliate yourself with the MR, you can get missions and interact with all of the agents, no matter what empire they're with, because this whole event is all about all the empires cooperating together.
Ah.
Yeah.
So this is pretty interesting that you're going to be mixing the game and real life, kind of for the first time. Like we try to do Dust, which was a different game, and EVE Online, and put those 2 games to have some kind of a bridge. And this looks like it's a real life event being masqueraded as something that is existing in the game. And in the game, you can actually visit this place, but you cannot enter it. So it really brings reality and the game really close together in a strange way.
Yeah, absolutely. And it does make me, being almost a 15-year veteran of EVE and knowing how crazy our community can get, it does put me on hot pins a little bit in terms of what crazy shit you guys will do at FanFest. But it's going to be good. I think it'll be fun.
Do you expect a lot more people in costume this year?
We honestly have no idea. I mean, we're kind of treading new ground. We've never really tried this before.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're interested to see how it goes, I guess.
Yeah, we're trying to keep the costume really light this year because we saw the same people coming back year after year to do the cosplay, and we wanted to make sure that they had a place within the event. So we've actually approached some of them to be more heavily involved in the planning and executing of the event. But then just the general FanFest goers, we're going to give them an ID badge. So encourage them to come in something of the Empire's color, but they don't necessarily have to be in full cosplay.
Yeah. So if you guys see this going well, do you expect to do something again in the future, perhaps?
I mean, I wouldn't really rule it out. I mean, if it goes really well and we see a lot of people involved with it, then maybe it's something we could continue with. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say no. I mean, we've sort of done this a little bit in the past with live agents, where we used to, when we were at the old FanFest venue, Huddersfield, we used to basically run live agents each year, and the faction that won decided the next year's thing for FanFest. I mean, obviously, we don't do that now with Harper because we have sort of different rules about how we decorate that kind of stuff with a new venue. But I mean, I'm more than happy to work on things like this FanFest. I think it brings a lot of value to the event. So if people really like it and enjoy it, then why not? We could probably look at doing things like this in future.
So
Awesome.
it depends on participation and success and those sorts of things, how much more of this gets made. So you guys should participate as much as possible.
I'm going to be in that Galente Pleasure Hub all weekend.
Getting a massage.
Not tell you, you're not going to get me out of there.
Well,
I'm going to have pos fuel and everything, and dum.
I hate to break it to you, but unfortunately they didn't approve my request for pole dances, so it won't be as good as I wanted it to be. But yeah, well, I'm giving it a go at pole dancing. Yeah, they're going to need a pretty strong pole.
Well, I was thinking that if you actually docked on the station and you went to your captain's quarters, the door would open and you'd be at FanFest. Like you could finally be, as Noisy says, walking in stations.
Yeah. Ironically, the air on this Keepstar is also not fit for human consumption. We haven't told anyone that.
Okay. So the anyone else have questions about? So we've gone over for a really good review, there's a video. It's about 9 minutes long that was created by Yintan on what the Kainoki situation is. There's all this stuff that's coming out, and who's writing this stuff, by the way, that's coming out on World News? Are you allowed to say?
Yeah, that's Team Murder Services, basically. So there's actually kind of two teams now, I guess. There's Team England, who were just introduced yesterday with the devlog about the fiction portal. And then there's Team Murder Services, which are a wider cross-discipline team. And yeah, the way that this event's been working is we've provided the company P with a framework to work from and like a news schedule that we were going to put out with an overarching storyline. And then they've kind of filled in the blanks and figured out how best to work the event and sort of create and manage an event at FanFest. So yeah, all the news stuff has been written by Murder Services.
I see. So you actually have this buildup of a backstory that's years old, brought to the forefront again. It's incorporated into FanFest, and you have a team that's actually going to run a player event on site during FanFest. That's the bottom line.
The team from the company P is actually, last time I heard, was like 15, 20 people strong. And they're coming out. They're all going to be in cosplay. They're going to be populating and inhabiting these various sets around Harper. And yeah, you can expect fun and shenanigans, hopefully.
Yeah. I guess, and then the result of what happens at FanFest will influence the in-game backstory.
Yep.
Ah, it's great.
Ooh.
And part of that is we have absolutely no idea what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So we've kind of committed to involving like the outcome of the event and the backstory, but I dread to think what it's going to be.
Yeah.
Remember,
I'm
kids.
developing more grey hair thinking about it.
All right. Well, it sounds interesting. FanFest will be all the more interesting, especially for you two. So we'll see how that goes. And I should say at this point, if in the game, I've devised a new show actually on Thursdays. It's called right now, for a temporary title, Matterall Space Tours or Tours of New Eden. I was thinking of calling it Eve Curious. So people who saw it online that didn't know Eve could actually tune into the show. And because it's a travel show based on Eve travels, it would take you to these sorts of places. So this Thursday, we're going to go right when FanFest starts. We're going to go to this Keep Star in Solitude. If you guys want to be along for the ride, it's about an hour and a half show on Thursdays. But yeah, so that whole thing, it just sounds like it's. I don't understand where it fits between like LARPing and augmented or alternate reality stuff, but that's a whole nother show, so we won't go too deep into that. And I think that there's a lot of people with interest in it, right? Because isn't I mean, the Matani apparently comes from a kind of a LARPing background. I think CCP Siegel comes from that sort of thing.
I think quite a lot. I think quite a lot of the like members of the lore community do have a background in either like very heavy pen and paper RPGs or LARPing. I know personally I took part in some, although it's more less big than this, obviously.
Yeah, so you start to cross day-to-day reality with alternate realities.
I'm going to LARP as my supermassive beer hole. But I got called yesterday, so there we go.
All right. Something else that happened, if there's nothing else on Kionoko, how do you pronounce it? What's the official pronouncement of that?
The official pronounce, I guess, would be Kayanoku.
Yeah, Kayanoku.
Kayanoku, okay. Or Kayanoki. Oh,
but
whatever
it's a bit like
said.
all of our ships. Everyone says them differently, and that's okay.
Yep.
You need to come back with that, like how to pronounce Eve series that you were doing for a little while.
So it's like song lyrics, it's whatever you think it is. That's what's important.
Oh, how drunk.
It's true.
Remember, kids, it's the Naglafar.
All right. Something else that I want to move on to is the Eve fiction portal, I guess.
I lost!
Yay!
Finally!
This is amazing. And it looks like you have put up a new site just yesterday. And it looks like that's what's containing all the avenues to the backstory for EVE Online. Want to talk about that?
Oh, I guess if you guys have questions, why not?
Well, let me start with this: is Interstellar Correspondence? That's a group of reporters that are kind of official that report via World News, which can be found on CCP's website. They have their forums area. Or actually, no, CCP's website. They have news channels, and you have a World News channel, which tells you all the news that's happening inside the game. So if you're interested in the living backstory, that's where you can get some of that. And now there is this fiction portal that will lead you to that, but also lead you to a lot of the stuff that's been written in the past, which is pretty nice. You guys kind of put it all into one area.
We actually combined our two volunteer teams, one called Interstellar Correspondence and one called Mercury, and we've combined the two teams into New Eden Correspondence. So they're going to be focusing on both lore and player backstory, because it didn't make sense to us that they were separate, because to me players are so integral in the lore and they help us create the lore. So it was just very weird that the corporations and the day-to-day events didn't belong also with our lore team. So they're both going to be heading up the fiction portal together.
Right. So if somebody wants to become a part of this organization, it's a volunteer organization made of players. How do they volunteer?
There's a website that we're going to be relaunching again soon, and that we're going to be focusing on a recruitment drive after FanFest. So they should just keep an eye out for the dev blog on the volunteer program.
So if you want to become a reporter for EVE, there's now an avenue, or there will be after FanFest again, because it used to be very select. I don't even know how you became ISD a while back, but there'll be a chance.
We're going to make it much more public and just have a website up where you can apply, and there'll be a big recruitment push. And then you just apply, answer some questions, and should be a lot simpler.
That sounds pretty cool. I
So
heard. Go ahead.
I'm kind of glad that the Evelore portal's got a nice revamp, because beforehand it was kind of in the website, and if you knew where to find it, you could find it. So I'm kind of glad it's now got a brand new bit site with all the different bits and information on lore on it, because I've been playing Evenly for 5 years now, and I read them every now and again. I still don't think I've managed to finish them all, and it's well in excess of maybe 30 or 40 individual little chronicles and things like that that's out there. So I'm really glad to see it, because it can give it a bit more prominence, because there's so much work that's gone into developing the lore over the years. It's great to see it at the forefront of the website again.
I completely agree with that. Like, one of the biggest problems with lore in the past was that it was so spread out. Even with the Evilopedia, it was kind of difficult to navigate your way around. So I was really excited when I saw this dev blog drop yesterday.
Yeah, we're really excited about it. We hope with the immersive event that's happening at FanFest and just much more lore presence in game, that we'll get more traffic through that website, and just more people will start to realize that the lore is not this scary, vast thing, and they can definitely be involved in it.
Yeah, it's pretty intimidating, I think, for people. So how do you welcome new people into an area that is intimidating? That's kind of the story of Eve, isn't it? Like, that's the whole new player experience has to tackle that. But there's also, you have to tackle it in different areas too, like lore and economy and other places that aren't just getting involved in combat and NP stuff.
I mean, it's not just intimidating to read. I mean, it's intimidating to work on in some instances as well, because there's just so much content that sometimes it's like, I know I've spoken to CCP Delegate Zero about this. We've joked about it, that, neither him nor me nor Affinity know everything about Eve's backstory. And more often than not, when we're writing something new, we'll actually have to go back to the fiction portal or to our in-house reference materials and actually look at what we've written in the past, and then kind of get up to speed on it, and then start writing new stuff, because there's actually
do you ever,
so much content. But yeah, it's nuts.
Do you ever miss something like, oops, I accidentally wrote something and it's contradicted in the past?
It happens now and again, yeah, but usually we catch it before it goes out. We have a pretty robust way of sort of peer review and everything internally, so that we try not to screw up very much.
I can imagine it's quite intimidating, because certainly when the lore guys get into full gear and sit down and start picking these to pieces, and it's like, oh my god, I hope there isn't something gone out that contradicts, or there's a slight error in there, because they will go nuts on it.
We would never pounce on something that's wrong.
Yeah, is it hard to...
Is putting things in print. That is the most frightening thing. I mean, I've been lucky enough to work on all 3 of the books we've published recently, Source, and now the Frigates book that's coming in the summer. And it's like, yeah, it's terrifying when things finally go away to the publisher, and you're sat at your desk thinking, shit, did I fuck something up? Like, did I put something in the wrong place? Did I say the wrong thing? Did I write the wrong thing? And yeah, there's like 5 or 10 people read over stuff internally before it goes to print. So yeah, I'm sure that there are the odd typo here and there, or the odd wrong word here or there, or something like that. But it's one of those things that you just gotta live with, I guess.
Well, it's interesting because you've been playing the game. To take you way back, but you played the game initially. You were a well-known figure in the game. Then you started working for. Actually, you then did Alliance tournament commenting, which is a high-profile position as well. Before you even worked for the company, and even you are intimidated by sometimes writing some of the fiction that comes out of the game.
Yeah, it can be terrifying, but it's fun though. It's a lot of fun. It's sort of that scary.
Do you find it?
It's terrifying, but it's
I'm sorry, it's hard to hear. You have to that mic.
They get really close down to the mic.
Hey, we've seen earnings. You should tell Hilmar to get a really good mic there, or a couple of them. But backstory, I wanted to talk about that and give some newer players a little bit of an idea of how much stuff is here. You can go to the fiction portal and see there's just tons of science fiction if you just like science fiction, and you can read up on it. Even if you don't even play the game, there's science fiction there. It's really good. Would you say there's different layers to Eve lore? Like, was there different periods of time like there is in real life?
I guess so. What would you say? Yeah, yeah. It's one of those things where you get a basic kind of a high level sort of approach where you can just read about the factions. You can read a little bit about each of the empires, about the heads of state, that kind of thing, and then you can dive into the really really deep history. You can find out about if you look at the Amaya, you can find out about past heirs, past emperors, the past empresses, and sort of like internal conflicts that have happened within each of the factions. You can hear about sort of conflicts that have happened interfactionally as well. So there's kind of a high level approach, and then there's sort of a few levels beneath it of varying detail. And it's when you get to those bottom levels that it's the terrifying part to work on, because there's like tentacles everywhere in terms of the way things are cross-linked. So yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Tell us about the novel you got coming out or tell us about the book coming out this summer.
Oh, yeah. So we've teamed up with Dark Horse again. These are the guys that obviously I don't think Dark Horse really need any introduction. But we teamed up with Dark Horse a few years back to produce Eve Source. I've done a couple of comic books for them too. Then we did The Art of New Eden, and this summer we'll hear more about it at FanFest. Actually, we have a book coming that is basically Frigates of Eve Online for cutaways. And the idea behind this is to sort of a look beneath the skin of all of the frigates in Eve Online. All of the standard Empire frigates, so the T1s, and then the sort of the Firetail, the Comet, and the Slicer. We haven't dived into the pirate frigates, but we've looked at all of the main frigates that are used by most players, and just like peeled the skin back from it, shown the different variants of them, a little bit of information about the Tech 2 versions, and a little bit about each hull's development history, and some information as well about the militaries of New Eden and how they kind of stack up against each other. So yeah, it's a little bit of kind of a, I guess you would call it, that has a lot of technical information in it, but it should be, hopefully people will enjoy it and it'll be a good read.
I'm looking forward to it because the artwork, because you showed off some of the artwork from it last year when it was originally announced at the FanFest that this was going to be a book that was going to be coming out, and one of them was a cut cross section of a Fed Navy comet, and it was great. It just looking through that bit of art and seeing all the individual pipes and all the different components of the ship, and you can see the pod, and there's a guy standing next to the pod, and you start getting a real. There's so much depth into it. It looks kind of like a Haynes manual type thing, and it looked really really great. So I'm looking forward to the book when it comes out.
Yeah, I am too.
What comes after this one? Cruisers, destroyers?
Well, perfectly biased, and I would love to see us do a book for like every class, basically. But I mean, it all depends on what kind of time, budget, and crazy other business decisions we have to make around it. But I'm just super interested to see how this one sells, how it does, how well or how badly it's received, and then maybe we'll go from there and we'll decide if we want to do something more in the future. But no guarantees at this stage. Just kind of we're testing the waters.
Affinity,
Okay.
you're a senior game designer, I believe, for I wrote it down here. You're for Team Genesis, right? Genesis is interesting because that's the point in the game, on the game map, where everybody originated when they came through the original wormhole. Is that what your team is named after, by the way?
I didn't actually join the team when they come up with the name, but it's definitely the band. It's nothing lore related. I was very disappointed when I heard.
Well, so what is it like? You're known for working on the backstory. You're also famous for uttering Empress Jamil's last words. Do you remember what they were?
No.
Oh,
I don't.
Oh, and there's Jintan's
Think of-
fanboy dreams just
I
crashing.
just heard heartbreak all around you. No, but that was
Elizabeth is going to be very mad.
that was interesting. That at some point you were able to speak through inside the game in character. Before she died, and I think died the second time because she's died before, or at least faked her death. Do you think that
We
she's?
just can't get rid of her.
That's what I was going to ask. Is it permanent this time, or is she going to come back at some point, or are you going to leave that door open?
I definitely won't be
She's
bringing her
dead as
back.
spam.
I don't think we would want to redo that same storyline again. So I don't see that while we're still working here that would happen. But you never know.
Yeah, Falcon has a very famous quote about how Jamil is dead as spam,
That is the kind of spam.
which has been roundly passed around, I'd say.
So is it kind of like? Do you look back? And this is the second time that I guess you've looked at this. You've looked at lore. You found something that you wanted to wrap up. You said earlier, and so you've brought it back to kind of deal with the something that was in the game before. It seemed like Jamil was that way. Like she existed, and then you've kind of like put an end to that storyline. The drifters have kind of come in. They seem to have drifted out of prominence.
Terrible.
And that
We
wasn't
brought
planned.
the drifters back recently with Team Genesis, the team that I'm on worked on Inception, the new player experience.
Mhm.
We brought the drifters in there and introduced them as like this universal enemy across the empires. So I think we're definitely going to see more of the drifters
Right.
in the not too distant future.
Well,
Ominous.
I am thrilled to hear about that.
So what's next? Can you give us some teasers? What in your work? What are you working on?
Working on the next steps of the new player experience. Obviously, we did the first few hours of gameplay, and then players will have to go into the existing career agents and things. So we're just trying to work out at the minute what we want to do next. And we don't just want to like revamp what's there. We want to just think about what is the most fun, interesting approach we can take to this so that new players really have the best introduction possible. And you'll actually hear a bit about it with CCP Ghost is going to be presenting at FanFest.
Mm-hmm.
He'll tell you a little bit more about what the team are up to at the minute. And we're actually working on something quite exciting, but I'm not going to tell you. You'll have to watch his presentation.
That's a
Okay.
promise.
So there's
Like I
something.
said, it's something that the CSM has been working very closely with Ghost on. We've been honestly, Team Genesis is one of the teams that we've worked probably the most with over the course of our CSM 11 term.
That's good. So there's something coming up. We'll look forward to that. And this isn't in the way of complaint, but I heard someone say something that was very interesting, and that is we always players would say like, Eve University doesn't prepare people for the game because it kind of coddles them, or missions don't because missions aren't anything like PvP. And somebody made a comparison to NPE treating you like a very special individual, and then you're released into Eve where you're nothing but a speck of dust compared to all the machinery that's going on around you. In other words, all the player organizations that are big and organized and already have their rhythms, and you're just kind of like, you have to try to find a way to fit into that. So you're not special anymore, and it's kind of jarring.
Yeah, I think that's how we want to continue with it because, everyone, all the Capsuleers that play our game are special. And sure, they aren't at the stage where they can be in a big alliance running and organizing things, but that's okay. There has to be a special area of Eve that they can do at that level. And we just want to make sure that exists. And we know at the minute it doesn't, and it is a bit of a jarring experience when you're finished Inception, but that's why the team are still around and we're just working out what to do next.
Right, still evolving. But the faction capitals, I think Tiberius had something on this, right?
Yeah, so finally we've seen some stuff come onto CC about the new Blood Raider capitals, which is great because I love collecting faction capitals. And with all the new events coming up and things like that, are we going to see a themed event around them coming up maybe?
You'll have to wait and see. You'll hear more from the team who are working on the Blood Raider capitals at FanFest. There's going to be, some material in the keynote, I believe, and then there'll be more material in a separate presentation. So I'm not going to speak for the team who are working on them, but there'll be more information on the Blood Raider capitals and how you'll be able to get your hands on them at FanFest. So
Yeah, there'll be a bit from CCP Larkin.
yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
He doesn't like people to know, but he's also inside. He's a little bit of a law nerd too, like the rest of us. He likes things to be a little bit immersive. So yeah, good.
That's good, because I'm really looking forward to seeing what the event is. Because I personally really enjoyed the Shadow the Serpent event myself, so I'm quite keen to see what event is get pulled out for the new capitals and see if we can all race for them this year as well. That'd be cool.
Well, we can go to some questions, or actually, before we go into questions, I picked up some questions from people I was asking around, and there's some questions inside of our chat here from people who want to know more about certain things. But before we talk about that, I want to talk with Falcon about pirating, because that's something you're familiar with.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. Your background, and correct me if I'm wrong, was you were head of Veto. Really, you were like the spirit of Veto, which was one of the early pirating corporations or alliances. Corporation, right? Veto Corp.
We're technically in the alliance, but we just had one corporation in the alliance. So yeah, many moons ago.
Right. And so you told me this great story, and you tell great stories. Anybody that can get a chance to talk with Falcon should take themselves up on it, because great storyteller. You actually executed one of your own pirates that was dishonorable, right?
Several times. Yeah, that happened a few times over the course of the 10 years we were up and running. Yeah, you break the rules. Talk shit, get hit, basically. That was kind of the motto.
But what rule did he break?
I believe he dishonored a ransom. That's the one you're talking about. He took money from someone and then killed him.
That's the one I'm talking about.
Yeah, booted from the corporation. Potted a couple of times as well, I believe, when he was trying to move his stuff out. And then the victim was granted a new ship forfeit and the value of the ransom back as well.
Yeah, so I wanted to point that out because it's really interesting. You have the head pirate, booting one of his own pirates who dishonored a ransom, which means that he took the money from the person that he ransomed and then he killed them anyway, which was a no-no. Booted him out and killed him on the way out a couple times, and then took money from him and gave it to the person that he had ransomed to. And to me, that's kind of magical, like that kind of stuff. Do you think does that still happen, or is that an old way of doing things?
I don't actually know. To be honest, when I came to CCP, I hung my guns up, so to speak. And I actually now I'm more involved in industry, manufacturing, and exploration. I retired, so to speak.
Yeah.
CCP. But I think there was, once my old corporation disbanded, there were a few who filled the void. And for me, the biggest group that filled the void for a long time were the bastards. They jumped straight in, dived really into the position that we held, and from what I've seen, they've been, so to speak, in terms of keeping low stack pretty fun and pretty vibrant. But yeah, I think kind of the meta has changed so drastically over the course of the last 7 years. The traditional piracy, the way that we used to do it at least, I don't think it's really viable anymore because there are so many different threats you have to face now. I can remember the days when some of our members used to be able to go out solo and blast the ball.
Sorry to interrupt you. It's hard to hear you. Can you again approach the microphone or something?
I can get down a little bit lower, or I can hold the microphone up. But yeah, I mean, I think, like I was saying, the meta of Aviva shifted so much in the last 7 or 8 years that do the kind of piracy we used to do. It's just been a change in how the game operates, basically. And I can remember when some of our guys would go out, they'd go out solo in a heavy assault cruiser, but maybe a blaster from, and they'd be out 6, 7, or 8 days. and they'd be out to be ransom, you know, a little bit of ransom, a little bit of extortion, you know, all the good stuff that used to happen in LoSec, and it would be great. But now, you know, you have a lot of supers in LoSec, a lot of large alliances that have LoSec forward operating points as well. So it's kind of difficult for a small corporation to really make a mark for itself, carve out a piece of space, and really kind of really shine the way that some of the corporations used to do in LoSec. So then there's factional warfare too, which is a lot of people all flying together. So yeah, it can be a bit troublesome, but there's still a few corps out there who manage it.
Yeah, and so would you say there was kind of a golden age of pirating, or is that too cynical?
Because I lived through that sort of golden age kind of thing, and I don't think I will ever get a gaming experience like that again in my life. It was just fantastic. The rush I used to get from PvP back then was absolutely incredible, because it was me versus, or me and a couple of my guys versus 2 or 3 other guys, and you knew that was the fight, that was the standard fight. But now you're always worried, shit, does one of these guys have a sign-off? Am I going to get hot dropped? Is this guy got like 8 people waiting 2 jumps out? That kind of thing. So yeah, it takes the edge off a little bit, I think. But it's a different type of warfare now, and EVE is definitely a different type of game now too. It's evolved a lot since I was kind of the height of my career. So yeah, it's just a different game for a different kind of PvP now.
Yeah. So they used to be able to get clean fights, so to speak. You're pirates after all. But now the escalation, fear of escalation of somebody jumping in on top, or them calling somebody bigger to kind of reinforce them, that's become way common. And so it's a little bit harder to kind of figure out how to get those lucrative small gang fights. So
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really interesting, because there is kind of romanticism to it, you know, where you could, I don't know, there's just it's a richer story to be able to ransom somebody and say, all right, you paid, you can go. Like, it's almost like bird watching. You can still catch the bird with your eyes, you know, but you don't shoot it. So I thought that was pretty cool. All right, one question that comes from Reginald Saka. I knew I was going to ruin it. They said it was an easy name to say, but Saka Kibira. No, not well done. When will ACN get regular Prime slots like Scope? Because he likes Scope, but he wants to know if there's other news services in EVE as well.
So there are many news services in EVE. I mean, there's the Scope, there's ACN, there's New Movie News, there's Echelon Entertainment, the Leisure Group run their own news services as well. But the one that we really focused on, and the one that's become a bit of a brand, is the Scope, definitely. And it's mainly because we've kind of tried to take the Scope a little bit independent and make them kind of an all-encompassing news service. I'd love to see reports from like ACN and from NOH, from a few others as well. But I mean, it's more, I think it's just kind of a time constraint thing, I guess.
The overhead of just running all those different news services would just be insane.
Yeah.
We do, the written in character news. If you watch the character names that it's been pushed out by, there are reports from NOH, there are reports from Mars Certified News, but there's just not the video content there as well with it, because we kind of just focus on the Scope of that.
Yeah. So Lena Ombre and Alton Havari are different reporters from, I guess, different areas. But as far as the videos that come out from Scope, those will remain Scope, because that's essentially what they've picked to kind of be the universal video report that we're now accustomed to. And these things actually started way back in 2008, 2009, when Imperium Age was coming, right? And you guys had ACN there. You did have an ACN reporter talk about a certain event that was happening, and you had Scope talking about other things that were happening. So there was it seemed like a little more competition. Maybe it seemed like a bigger world kind of thing. So that must be what this question is about.
Yeah, I think it's just also easier for new players coming in if they know, like, they see the Scope and then they see another Scope video and they know what they're going to get. If we tried to do them from all the entertainment corps, it would be a little bit confusing and kind of hard to market around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Does anybody else have questions for lore, because we're going to move on to something, and I want to have our guests talk about their favorite ship or their favorite doctrine. Or maybe we'll just move on to that. Nobody else has anything. We have a little doctrine report that usually Apothony does. He's obviously in Iceland, so it's hard for him to get ready for this. Falcon, do you have a favorite ship?
Yeah, I mean, for many years I was a Blastatron pilot, and
Blaster
I
Megatron?
tried. Yeah, Blastatron. Yeah, and for probably nearly a decade, I tried to get Entity to sell me the federal issue Megatron, and hideously failed to do so. He would never let it go, and his reasoning for it was that he didn't want to sell it to me because he knew I would fly it and lose it. That was he sold it to me, and I'll never forgive him for that. But away from the Blastatron, I was always a really big fan of the Pulse Zealot. So I'd fly basically a heavy pulse-fitted, heavily tanked Zealot. Yeah, it was always good fun. These days, actually, I know I'm going to get a shitload of this, but I had a lot of fun over the course of last year flying a Thipple, actually. I had a lot of fun in low sec in the Swivel last year. I've gone back to flying the Vagabond. The Vagabond and the Flick Snapper over the course of the last sort of 6 to 8 months. It's quite fun.
Well, I see a pattern from you of big guns. So you must be...
I prefer the more kind of in-your-face, kind of direct action approach over anything else.
Direct action, yeah.
None of this kiting nonsense. I mean, nobody wants to do that, right?
The up close brawler. Yeah, that's funny. Well, thanks for that. So the Megathron, and it's funny because battleships are, if you think of battleships as pirate vessels with in low sec, they are kind of rare, aren't they?
Yeah, very rare these days.
Well, only with guns. You actually see a lot of smart bombing battleships, really.
To catch, yeah, but that's to catch little fish that are trying to. Well, I won't get into strategy, but that's our doctrine report. Let's move on to game news because there's a bunch of stuff in game news too. Mm-hmm. First and foremost is the new suns. Long ago, they redid the planets because the planets looked kind of. Actually, the graphics been upgraded constantly for this game, but the suns are finally getting their day. Oh, there's another pun, and they look beautiful, right? and you have new like visual effects that blur parts of the sun out, so you can feel the heat kind of coming off of them and all the detail. And they're very unique. Apparently, they're different colors and different systems. They even have a pink sun, I've heard of, but no green ones.
I was speaking to Antiquarian, who I met when I got here, and he was talking a little bit about them, and they are just so good looking, man. Like, it's weird how we can talk about what it's like a 14-year-old game that is one of the most beautiful games consistently through those 14 years. I don't think any other game can really claim that.
Well, yeah, I think even some people I know, when I show them maybe a screenshot of the game or things like that, and they go, "Wait, how old is this game again?" And it's like, yeah, it's like quite old now, and the graphics are quite good, yeah, because they keep updating them. They're always working on them, and I think Suns were one of the few ones that weren't touched for quite a while, and now they have these really nice animated effects. Before it was just a big ball of blinding light. Now you can go and have a look at the surface and see the superheated plasma rippling across it and the jets coming off it. They look great.
Yeah, what's with a pink sun? Is that scientifically, is that correct?
I think that was just a rebellious artist in Team Trilander. It was like, I couldn't do it somehow.
We were watching your video and we just saw the Megathron drifting outside the sun there. We'll imagine that's an ode to Vito. Yeah, so there is no green suns, which is very interesting because people were requesting it. They said, yeah, you know what? That's scientifically not possible. There are no green suns. There's only illusions of green stars. So I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah. Turns out that there is no Krypton.
All right. Blood Raiders are getting their capital ships, and one of the nice touches was the corpse bay. Do you want to talk about that? Affinity, did you do that?
Not me.
Actually, that was actually. I'm pretty sure that was Fozzie, wasn't it? Because he was the guy who figured out that you could do it for the AT ships.
Oh, I'm sure they all talk to each other.
I guess they'll get a great use with using the new corpse tractor mobile thing. Yeah?
The OMG.
Okay. I guess that was an April
I'm
Fool's.
so sad that that's not a thing.
Somebody else, and I'll go back and look, but somebody else in our chat was saying, why do they announce great ideas on April 1st and then pull them back? Because they love that idea of a tractor beam station for corpses, so that after you blew everything up, you could just tractor in all the corpses.
When we pitched that idea, and I put the dev blog together for it, there's one people, this is something that our players are actually going to say, why is this an April Fool? Make this immediately. And like, as soon as we published it, and I went and I looked at the forum thread for it, I looked at the Reddit thread that got auto posted, I was like, yep, I knew that was going to happen, because it can be a little bit macabre at times, let's say.
I remember when we were coming up with some of the drifter ideas, and people were going, do you not think it's a bit gory, a bit gruesome? No, probably not gruesome enough.
Yeah,
not gruesome enough.
I'd like to make a note, by the way, on the corpse bays in the Titan, that the corpse bay on the Titan is so big that you run into the constraints of the game. You can only have 1,000 items open at any time. So if you try and fill it up with corpses, you actually run out of the game limit before you run out of space. Or you could just put in one of your mum.
Yep, so rude.
That's all right. You just get the new OMG, you stick it down there, you blend them all up, and you're all good.
Just get some fucking corpse slurry.
Let's move quickly past this topic. So we've covered factions. This is really interesting. You're putting CEO portraits inside their structures, so that if you're the, can you explain that a little bit?
What?
Yeah. If not, I can.
That's really, I guess that's for 5.0 and Trilander to talk about a little bit, but I think overall it's just part of what we've been trying to do a lot more recently is just putting our players first, and just try to kind of put you guys at the forefront of everything that we're doing, basically. I mean, we've had a lot more collaboration with the CSM recently. The perfect example of this is the stuff that's going on at FanFest as well with the ARG that we're running. It's just kind of, we want to put you guys in a position where you can fiddle around with the EVE universe and influence it in more ways. And I think you guys are going to see that in the future too. It's just kind of, we want to put you guys in the middle of everything and make sure that you guys are kind of the stars of the show. So I think it was kind of, the Alliance logos on Citadels as well are also kind of a product of this too. We just kind of want to put you guys at the forefront of everything now. So yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, it's really cool. And what it's going to do, I believe, if you're the CEO of your corporation and that structure belongs to that corporation, his picture gets put in next to the logo in a very subtle way, but it's still there. And I think what they've explained is exactly what Falcon just said, that they're trying to give more focus onto players and ownership. I think that's a really important part of this whole thing. Right.
The thing was that reminded me when I saw the initial screenshot that somebody took and it had the portrait there, and it reminded me of like the old trailers where we had Angry Concord guy on the big screens, like things, and suddenly I had this images of Vince Draken like on these big screens going, "Get it, Fleet!"
Angry Concord guy is my best character. Is the best character in EVE Online lore.
That's actually demonstrably true.
Okay, more game news. Then we'll move to player news, but we have a couple more things here. We have UI fixes that are coming from Team 5.0. There's also drone health bar changes. The drone health bar will actually change colors to show you in a more visual way, that your drone is dying. Contracts are moved from 2 weeks to 4 weeks, and this is interesting. Boosters are now saved with the fittings.
Hooray!
Hooray!
Means I can make sure I always have my drugs in my ship.
Are they actually getting used much since they became more legal, less illegal?
I always bring my Quafe Zero on the fleet. I've got to make sure I get on every single kill.
You're the one.
Yeah, totally.
All right. And if anybody has anything on that, let me know. But otherwise, let's move on to New Eden Store has April sales. So look into spending that last bit of Aurum before it converts over to Plex. I wonder if that kind of goes, those things kind of crash. Okay, so let's move on to player news. Corneros, you had something?
Oh, hell yeah. 3 hours and 38 minutes. 3 hours and 37 minutes.
From now.
That is the timer until the... Which one is that one? I'm not sure if that's the Sotia or the Keep Star that comes online. On grid with each other, 5 minutes apart. They're onlining. A test is onlining a Keep Star and a Sotio on a busy weekend. I'm not sure the strategy on that. If you are interested in coming down to watch, it's in Esoteria. It's a long way. No, it's not a long way, depending on where you are. Could be a long way. DTAC PNP9 over by Planet 5.
I get the feeling we might have another cooking with Tibbs in tie-dye moment tonight.
We've also got we've also probably got a fight going on Sunday. A Spectre Fleet Astra House has been launched in KBP by the same FC as previous.
You guys
so
aren't
likely to be.
You guys aren't meta leveraging the show to get people there to interfere, are you?
No, it's just these are fights that are going to happen like in a couple of hours.
Okay.
Who would do such a thing?
So this is a public announcement so that if you want to see a big fight, you know where they're going to be.
Or equally, if you want to be safe and avoid it, you can, head in the other direction.
Well, that's a good point. Right. So the other thing is it looks like NC went on a reinforcing spree against the initiative because they're up in Syndicate area taking care of moons, which is funny because this big moon change is happening. So this is like kind of a last grab. NC's there. Looks like Mercenary Coalition is joining them. Looks like Horde has always been involved. I'm not sure. Yeah. Do you know anything about that, Tiberius?
Well, just a bit as a line member, we've been forming up and we've been fighting quite a lot of fights against the initiative. I think, and their allies who have formed up in the form of Snuffbox, Project Mayhem, and that as well. And we've been having some quite big brawls over the last few days, running into the tens of billions. So the kill count so far is well into the hundreds plus billion-esque mark in the last week. So it's been pretty good. It's been pretty good fun. But as for any of the higher level stuff, no. I just log in and press F1. You know me.
You can't say anyway, so why do I ask?
Nobody tells me nothing.
Carneros on the other side of that. What do you know?
He logs in, he drinks his quaif, and then presses F1. I know him.
Exactly.
I do the same thing. Just kidding. Sorry, I'm a bad influence.
All right, and I got an angry. Oh, go ahead. You were gonna say?
Yeah, no. It's funny too because they're enjoying these R64 and other similar moons for exactly the purpose they were supposed to be for, and a last hurrah before the system goes away. And I think it's very funny.
Before the moon mining system, yeah.
Yeah, because eventually the moon mining system will change. The moon mining towers that you have set up on these moons will stop functioning, and nobody will own any of the moons until such a time as a new structure is launched and a new drill bit, or whatever they're going to call the drill bit, gets activated. So it's not like a deeply strategic wealth acquisition type of fight. It's for other reasons, and I am hearing things about people enjoying it.
I'm I'm going to be very interested to see the final information on the new platforms and things coming out. Well, if the final information is coming out on the new platforms at FanFest, just to get a better idea of how the mechanics are going to work, because I think it's going to be very interesting to see how it changes the dynamics of fights over moons in the coming year or so. I'll be very interested to see how it works.
And for those of you that are not familiar, we recorded 2 shows recently that are helpful. If you wanted to learn more about the Plex, we had CCP Rise here a couple of weeks ago, and you can see that on the podcast playlist or the podcast feed. And then a week after that, last week, we had CCP Fozzie talking about these moon mining changes. So check those out. He also did an additional Q&A for 2 hours where he exhausted all the questions from people who showed up to talk. And there was about 15 in there at one point. At least people rotated in and out. So that was good. Yeah, so let's, I hear somebody want to say something. I'm deceived. All right, announcements. Let's talk about FanFest and... Go ahead.
Oh yeah, this is it. This is the bit I've been waiting for. Oh yeah. After I got very, very drunk and watched the Vegas stream and saw the cheap tickets and threw my credit card so hard at the screen I nearly cut my eye out. But we basically FanFest is kicking off between the 6th and the 8th of April, which is in like 5 days' time. It's really, really quite close. And there's going to be a live stream up. Does Falcon and Affinity want to say anything about the live stream coming up and how people can watch it?
Sure. So the live stream schedule is actually up now in the form of a devlog that you can find on community.eveonline.com. You can also go to twitch.tv/CCP as well to see the actual schedule for the live stream. So it's all up and it's out there and you can see everything. We'll be broadcasting the keynote, the opening ceremony, the closing ceremony, as well as all the major presentations that are happening. So there'll be presentations from Fibo, structures, there'll be from Phenomenon on the new Blood Raider stuff and more PvE content that's coming. And there's a lot of other content too. We've got an exoplanets presentation as well from Michelle Meyer, who's also going to be talking about the next stage of Project Discovery. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff in the schedule that's going to be broadcast.
And it's a continuous broadcast over the entire event as well, like back-to-back sort of shows with a TV with the Eve TV crew as well. You got a studio set up and presenters lined up for that.
We're also going to be hearing the announcement of the new CSM 12. That'll be the opening ceremony, so I'll be eagerly awaiting that.
Are you gonna puddle your seat?
Probably if I don't get in.
If I don't get in.
Should have a rage piss.
That's very territorial of you.
I will say, if anybody's planning on coming to FanFest and thus flying out soon, if it is your first year and you don't really have anyone to hang out with and you haven't really got any plans yet, I'm already in Iceland. So if you want to meet up with someone before everything starts and kind of try and find social groups to hang out with, I'm more than happy to show people around, show you the restaurants that people hang out at, show you bars people hang out at. So feel free to give me a DM on Twitter because I'm already here and that's free to do stuff.
Yeah, and I want to say at this point, Talking in Stations is going to be represented by Epothany there. So we're really happy to have him. If you have questions about Talking in Stations, if you want to be on the air next week, because we will have a show, talk to him or go find him, say hello to him, and give feedback through him. And he'll be out there representing the show. Thank you for doing that, Epothany.
I believe the plan is for on the Saturday next show, that will be during FanFest. I don't know what the schedule looks like, whether there's any important talks that I should be in, but I'll try and grab a bunch of people to crowd around my laptop to come on the show.
Yeah, that would be fun.
There's also a plan for Open Comms to do something similar with myself and Rain getting really, really drunk at the party.
Dude, you gotta hook me up with an invite to that.
Yeah,
so CCP is figuring out how to incorporate the rest of us that can't make it to FanFest, and so we'll do our part.
And then, but FanFest isn't just about the main event itself, even though there's loads of content going on in the main event itself. It's all about players getting together as well in their groups. I know a lot of corporations and alliances and things like that have their own dinners and their own parties and things like that to get to. And we've actually got three events that I know about that are kicking off. For the Valkyrie players that are attending, is the Valhalla for Valkyrie meetup, and that's at Nora's. That will be on the 5th from 1700. So, if you're a Valkyrie player or you want to meet other people that play Valkyrie, I know some of the Valkyrie guys will be there as well. Go and attend that. Nora's a great bar as well. We've also got, not long after that, on the same evening, the Tweet Fleet meet as well. And that's Sandy, I'm going to butcher the name of this, Gakurin Karaoke Bar? I think it's like a place. The infamous place where Laz and Elise did the duet. What song was it again? I can't remember which song was it.
Not important.
Not important, but either way, they did a duet while they were there. So that's kicking off from 8 p.m. on the evening, and then there's a post-party with myself and the EVNT crew from Sunday. We have yet to decide on that location. I might have to ask Falcon and Affinity what their favourite bar is after the show and get that set up. But yep,
ask them now.
Ask them now. Okay. What's your favourite bars in FanFest?
There's one called Pablo Disco Bar. I think you should have it there.
Pablo Disco.
Where are you going to be hanging out, Affinity, so people can find you and ask you a million questions?
I think the most popular one around FanFest usually like Nora or Ferretta or something like that. So we just usually go to the one that all the players go to, because I'm actually going to be vlogging this year. So everyone should find me, and then they can be getting the CCP vlog that's going to be coming out.
Nice. Falcon, will you be everywhere too?
So yeah.
All right, you'll recognize him. Good job, McLeod, who's been producing an amazing show, putting up videos and putting up all kinds of graphics for the audience that's watching this live. Great work, and you can see they're doing a duet there. Sorry. Tiberius, continue, please. Is there more?
So if you can't make it to FanFest this week, not to worry, because there are some non-FanFest events going on as well. There's a meetup in Adelaide, in Australia, at the great-looking bar, the Belgian Beer Cafe, from the 7th at 1800 local time. There's also the Eve Northern New England meetup on the 8th of April. Now, they've got the time down as 0700. If they are actually starting 0700 local time, that's pretty dedicated, even for me, but I think they actually meant 0700 Eve time. And then finally, there's the Dresdner Snamich in Dresden at the Dubliner Irish pub in Germany on the 8th from 1700 as well. And again, all those events you can check out on evemeet.net, where you can add your own events, and you can also keep track of events around the world.
Thank you, Tiberius. Wasn't Eve London, was that actually the Veto meetup? Am I wrong about that?
It was, yeah. For many years.
Yeah, because I saw you on a chair and you're like, you have your pint in your hand or something, you're raising it, and there's like 50 guys around you. You look like captain of a ship. Your former life, right? Well, that's interesting. When did that start? Was that right after Eve started, or when did you put that together?
That event was actually originally organized in 2003, 2004 by a Minmatar loyalist group called the Causality. And then when their CEO left at midnight around 06, 07, Vito actually took over it, and we started organizing after there. And it's actually, since then, it's been organized by a really good friend of mine who's a Londoner, a guy with a character named Dimitri Slavic. And he is... he's taken care of the Eve gathering since then. But it's London is actually the oldest Eve player gathering on the calendar. Its first iteration goes back, I believe, to November 2003. So it's got a little bit of heritage, and there's a hell of a lot of stories as well.
I bet. What were the player meetings like? And because it seemed like it started organically, so it wasn't a planned thing, right? Like CCP didn't say, let's do a couple things here and there.
No, it was very much just groups of Eve players. I think the first two really large ones were London and Gangaton, which was in Copenhagen in Denmark, and used to be organized by a couple of people, including an old friend of mine, Lacrame, who used to be with LFC. She and a couple of other people used to organize that one. And I think those were the two really major events that kind of kicked things off. And then from there, like it branched out, and we suddenly had Glasgow, Vegas. And Vegas, of course, initially was originally a player-run gathering that was organized by Zappawork for the first few years. Then CCP kind of jumped on the bandwagon and started organizing it after that. But yeah, I mean, now we've got it's pretty unbelievable, really.
Yeah, there's some controversy because I remember on Open Comms they were discussing this. Was the guy that did eVegas Goon Swarm, or was he Pandemic Legion?
I
Good swarm.
I believe he was with the original incarnation of Goon Swarm, if I remember correctly. I can't. Don't quote me on that. I can't remember offhand, but I believe that Zappawork, was originally with the original incarnation of Goon Swarm.
That on paper somewhere. Right. By the way, somebody talk so I can figure out if I'm actually still able to hear.
You are still here.
You're good.
Yeah. You just lightly blanked there.
Okay, sorry about that. Right. Anything else on meetups?
Nope, that's it. And then after FanFest, I think everybody's taking a bit of a break because there isn't another one until next month. So, yeah, it's a big one.
Okay,
well,
we're close to wrapping up the show, but I think that we wasted a great opportunity to talk to Mark726, so I want to give him some time here. Sorry, it comes at the end of the show, but can you tell us about Eve Travels and how that got started? What it is?
It's really just a website for anyone who wants to check out some of the backstory behind the various beacons that you see throughout the game. Most concentrated in HiSec, but I do cover beacons wherever they pop up. I started a long time ago when I was bored one day, frankly, and trying to figure out where to go and what to do. And I realized there wasn't really a comprehensive list about it. So I kind of just went and started putting it together myself. And 7 years later, it's still going strong. So yeah, Eve Travel, if anyone's interested for figuring out where to go and take some pretty pictures.
Yeah, it's a great website. And I think we had a show that was kind of dedicated to just that. I believe it was Ian24 podcast when Tiberius and I were doing that. And I think I suggested, you ought to do tours. And because there's going to be a lot of new players coming. And so we thought it would be good to give some of those new players a little roam to go into areas and find where player situations had actually happened. And so I finally decided to do it. And we had our first episode on Thursday, as I said earlier in the show. And it's based on a lot of the tourism provided by Mark. But the idea, it's not going to be a roam because I can't handle a show and fleet command at the same time very well. Like
trust me, he's a bad FC, honestly.
Boat, but yes. And so it was. The idea then is to just kind of travel to places where there's been some event that's happened historically, and to say this is the spot where this war came to an end in this last battle. It's kind of like traveling to a battleground that is a cemetery now in real life. So that's kind of the idea, but it's also a way for people who are curious about Eve to see some of the history without having to go through them watching somebody, play the game and talk about it offhand. So this is much more deliberate, saying we're actually going to talk about history. We're going to go to the places it happens. We're going to show you how to get there. And in the meantime, I'll show you the techniques that I'm using to survive the trip, or talk about the surrounding areas as we go there, talk about the history of Minmatar as we pass through the great hunting grounds or whatever they are. And the first episode is great because we had Noisy Gamer on board, who's just terrific at adding facts and stuff like that. So maybe we'll have him back, or we'll have rotating co-pilots so that it's not just me blabbing around.
You're doing it on Thursdays. I should be able to join you a little bit easier than the other time you were talking about. So
That'd be great. I wasn't going to ask, but I'm glad you volunteered. Right. So, is there anything else that our guests who we are so happy to have, Falcon and Affinity, is there anything else that you wanted to talk about?
We just hope that everyone has a shitload of fun at FanFest. That's the main thing that's kind of taking all of our time up right now. So yeah, come to FanFest, have a good time, let us know what you thought of it, and hopefully it'll be even bigger and better next year.
please don't kill us all.
Don't worry, they won't kill any capsuleers, just worthless baseliners.
All right. I want to say thanks to our guests. Before we go, I want to know after the show, if you guys want, the viewing audience, we have a Discord where we hang out and we all kind of are in this private channel where we do the show. But afterwards, we all pile into public and just kind of chat with people and hang out and let you guys hang out with us and mix and all that kind of thing. So you're welcome to do that. I'll go ahead and post the address, or if somebody else could post the Discord address inside a chat, we'd appreciate that. Thank you for watching this show, and thanks very much to our guests today, the panelists Tiberius and Apothny, who's there, Jintan, who made that great video that you should see on the on lore and other things, and Carneros for joining us, with Mark726, who created Eve Travels. And most especially to CCP Falcon and CCP Affinity. Thank you guys for coming on to the show.
Thank you for having us.
Yep.
Yeah, thanks for having us on, Meryl.
If you haven't,
Thanks.
There we go.
Okay,
There we
Meryl
go.
has entered full robot mode, so I'll help wrap up the show here for a second. Yeah, thank you to everyone who came along, and make sure you... I believe you guys are going to be streaming FanFest this year, right, Falcon?
That's correct, yes.
So anyone who wants to take part and kind of see what's going on, and probably make several market orders, will be able to do that. So yeah, make sure you watch it, make sure you take part in the fun, and peace out.
Enjoy for all of us who can't be there.
And I'll see all you guys at FanFest next week. Can't wait.
Yeah, I'll be there too. Come and find me.
Kokei semdol kake mo fa seda.